Welcome back to another episode of the North Star Takes podcast. I'm Bailey Paulicki. He's Jacob Liberta. We're a Minnesota sports podcast, so if you're a Minnesota sports fan, please hit the subscribe button on this channel. And if you're a Minnesota Wild fan, give this video a like because the Minnesota Wild are hot once again, winners of 6 of their last 7 and taking Colorado to a shootout. That was their one loss in these last 7 games. I mean, they've been playing absolutely fantastic. So we've kind of talked about all the interesting little storylines we've had throughout the season, whether it's been bringing up the hot prospects or the continued rise of Kirill Kaprizov into becoming a superstar, injury situations, COVID situations, etc. But today we're going to be talking about, is this the best Minnesota Wild team of all time? And it might be a little early to jump the gun because the Wild have had a team that's gone to the Western Conference Finals back in 2003, but it's hard to deny that this team potentially has more talent than that team did, and definitely has more talent than any team, post Marian Gaborik, throughout the Parisian Suter era, where there was one season, I believe it was 2016, 2017, where the Wild had over 100 points, but then they flamed out in the first round of the playoffs, losing to the Blues. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this has the potential to be the best Wild team of all time, just given the collective talent that's on this team?
Yeah, I think absolutely they have a chance to, but in the end, it's a results-driven business, so it's going to come
Yeah.
down to how they do in the playoffs. Like this regular season could just be high flying and all this fun stuff. All this fun stuff happens every night, but we get bounced first round, and it's like, well, what did we really accomplish here? Like ranking them among other teams. Like
Right.
I'm gonna be pretty hard pressed to rank a team that doesn't win any playoff series or advances in the playoffs, I should say, above the rest of the squads in franchise history. So I think it's going to come down to that, but it certainly has the makings of it. The potential is there. And I'm glad you pointed out those 2 seasons, the one where we went to the Western Conference Finals. I believe we were a pretty solid team that year. We weren't
Yep.
like great by any means, but we got hot at the right time. That's really what counts. And
Yep.
then you look back at that team a handful of years ago with that was probably the peak of the Parisian Suter era, where we had put together this great team, finished second in division, set a franchise record for points in a season, all to just get bounced by the Blues in 5. So like
Right.
we didn't. That one is a big letdown. And then after that, it was basically all downhill from there for that group. Because like the next season, they came back with a little over 100 points, but then they lost to I think it was Winnipeg right away. So look, stacking this team up just pound for pound with those other ones, it feels like it's better. I mean, heck, we just had that game the other night against Montreal where we scored 8 goals and 8 different guys scored, and our star player wasn't even one of them, like our
I know.
superstar. And that's just kind of blows my mind. I know Montreal is just a crap team this year, but
Yeah.
still, I think it's notable that many different guys can score, and I think there's so many different things to like about this current group that they can beat you in so many different ways. We can grind out games because we have pretty solid goaltending and Talbot and Kakinen. And then you think about our star players. We have game breakers with Kaprizov, Fiala, and then we got young guys coming into their own. Most notably, Matt Boldy. I know it's been a short time, but still. And then you got guys like Brian Duham and Connor Duar kind of flying under the radar, but still
Yeah.
homegrown products come through the Iowa Wild system. So I think there's so much to like with this team that it's I guess long story short, I love them to have the chance to be the best team in franchise history at this point in time when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I think without a doubt it's the deepest team because
Yeah.
you look at the 12 forwards this team has. The only one that I really truly would argue that could, deserve to be out of the lineup is Freddie Gaudreau.
Yes.
And it's nothing against him. He plays hard, he hustles, but he's just not that skilled.
No.
He can skate a little bit, but he's centering Fiala and Boldy right now, which has turned out to be okay because Fiala and Boldy really play well together. But I think if the Wild are somehow able to trade for a second line center, or if it gets to the point where they can fully trust Marco Rossi to come up and operate that line as well, you're going to have legitimately 12 forwards because that fourth line of Sturm, Duham, and Dewar, like that's a really good fourth line. Like
I know, right?
all 12 forwards on this team, I just really enjoy watching. Like the Eriksson Ek Greenway Foligno line, like that's your third line technically, and it's such a fun line to watch because they just go out and battle and play hard every night. And defensemen's where it gets a little sketchy because they're having to play guys like Jordy Ben a lot. I mean, granted, Brodin's been out a while, but they signed Merrill to an extension. He's been a nice piece. Kulikov is okay. Dumba is obviously hit or miss sometimes, especially in the defensive zone. But
Yeah.
I'd say defense is probably the weakness of this team. And now, given that Talbot's dealing with an injury that's on and off, goaltending depth is going to maybe become an issue here too. With obviously Käkkönen's been playing fantastic, and I think it's getting to the point where we could maybe talk about there being somewhat of a goalie controversy. Maybe not during this season, but maybe from here on out, it could be Käkkönen's job. After this season, but it's nothing to worry about right now. But obviously the goal is to get Talbot back healthy. You need 2 quality goaltenders going into the playoffs.
Yes.
But that might be something to think about at the trade deadline too. If Talbot's going to keep battling this lower body injury, that we need to get a solid backup behind Käkkönen if Talbot's not going to be ready to go.
Not a big fan of the Hamburglar.
I don't think they trust him. I don't think they trust him at all.
I wouldn't either. I can't remember last time that guy played an NHL game. So
yeah,
that's a little sketchy. And I think it's probably worth picking somebody up because that could be a real huge sore spot if you get caught in some place where, let's say, obviously Talbot's at a lingering injury, but then let's say Käkkönen. I mean, let's hope it doesn't come to that. But let's say he got hurt too, then you'd really be screwed, especially if this is after the trade deadline. So I think that's certainly worth looking into. You don't obviously don't want to mortgage a future into just some insurance policy of a goalie. You got to find the right price, but at the same time, I think it's certainly something that we should probably consider.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's still crazy is the Wild have to make up all these games, which I think they have 40 games in the last 77 days of the season or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But you look at our division, we're tied for the least amount of games played with Winnipeg, who's way behind us.
Yep.
You got Nashville and St. Louis, who are still ahead of us, but have played 4 and 5 more games than us.
Mm-hmm.
We're only 2 points behind them. So I've no doubt in my mind we're going to pass those teams by just because the talent is obvious that the Wild are better than those 2 teams. I know we lost to the Blues.
We don't match up with the Blues for some reason, but I feel like we got to figure out eventually.
Yeah, exactly. Overall, our talent should win out against the Blues, especially if we somehow were in a series with them, which honestly really could happen with the 2 and 3 seeds coming out of the division here.
Yeah, now you mention it, I guess. Yeah, that's actually a pretty likely scenario, I'd say, because like you said, I think there's a good chance that we pass both of them, but it's like I think the Blues will probably end up being on top of the Predators by season's end.
You would think so. And what's crazy is when you look at the rest of the West, Vegas is leading the Pacific Division with 52 points. The Wild have 53. Vegas has also played 4 more games than the Wild. So if the Wild were in the Pacific Division, they'd be leading that division with 4 games in hand. And not to mention the rest of that division is below 50 points. So that obviously the Pacific Division is not very good because you look at all the other divisions, you got all these higher point total teams. Colorado's just been on an absolute tear lately, and they're going to easily get the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, I think. But for the Wild, it's really just about getting the playoffs, win that series, especially if you get that 2 seed and you get the home ice for a 7-game series, go and win that series. And then just, whatever your matchup is from there, you take it. And obviously it's like you said, it's a results driven business. And if they're really the best team, they got to, make it, at least the Western Conference Finals, maybe the Stanley Cup. But at the same time, it's just like there's so much potential. And really, I think the Wild will be able to bring back pretty much everybody next year, except maybe Fiala. He's the one wild card because he's going to, need a new contract. He's going to want to get paid. So other than Fiala, everyone else should be back. You should have a improved and ready Marco Rossi next year. The way, this team's going to be in salary cap hell for a few years, but they're set up to be successful in that stretch.
Yeah. So are you saying back-to-back cups? Is that what I'm hearing?
Let's start with 1 first. How about that?
1? I'll take 1 all day long. Oh,
yeah, I'll take 1 as well. So just a fun team to watch. It's such a breath of fresh air as a Minnesota sports fan, especially after just the struggle of a Viking season we got through. And the Twins obviously were a huge letdown last summer. The Wolves are exciting as well, but just having a team that you basically can look at the opponent they're playing and say, oh yeah, the Wild are going to win that game. And it's so nice to have that. It's nice to have a professionally run team. All the guys like each other. It's easily the most cohesive team we have in town in terms of guys liking each other, being excited for each other, for, other guys having success, stuff like that. So it's a likable team, which, makes it even easier to cheer for. And hopefully the results can keep coming from them.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I'd love to see this group put together really some good quality playoff wins come the spring, and hopefully not only advance past round 1, but out of the division for the first time since this alignment has taken effect. I think this is back in, I want to say it switched in like 2013 or something. But obviously,
Yeah.
we've only been to the conference finals once in team history, so it'd be nice to get back there again, and then we could definitively say this team really is the best in team history. And if we're really playing our best at the end, then maybe we can go all the way to the cup and make some real noise. So that'd be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So, I mean, what's crazy is they still have over half the season left. So
I know, right? Yeah, feels like the season's been going on for a while, but that's the reality of the situation, is that we just haven't played that many games in like the last probably month and a half or something.
Exactly. So it'll be really fun to see how they finish out the season, and maybe they can make a run at Colorado for this division. Colorado is super hot right now. They have points in like their last 12 or 13 games or something ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they'll hit a cold streak here, and the Wild can kind of sneak back up on them. So
Maybe.
We'll see how the season finishes out, but that's going to do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Like I said earlier, if you're a Minnesota sports fan, please hit the subscribe button. If you're a Wild fan, please hit the subscribe button. Give this video a like as well and help us reach other Minnesota Wild fans. Give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram, and leave your comments below. Do you think this is the most fun, exciting, best Wild team ever? Let us know your thoughts, and until next time, thanks for watching.